Hi, buddy, Jeff here. And I'm going to make another little section here uh, that will probably fit into different books and things. It's about the topic. This is going to be a derivative thing on how music bands, you know, musical bands, the politics in them, and how that reflects other institutions, and how that. And I've actually given talks on this before, actually presentations at companies about this thing, of how it was in 2012, 2013 in January. I gave a 2012 January. I gave a analogy at SAP where I work, where I was the auditor of ICE 9000 development processes, and I gave an analogy, a full analogy of how the entire development process cycle of all the software testing, software creating the idea, having the idea creation, capturing the requirements of the users, and then going through and creating the getting the idea of the features, and then doing the architecture of the features, and then doing the software development, and then doing the software testing, and then doing the bug fixing, and then rolling it out, and then having the feedback come back, and we fix the bugs and all that. I made a full analogy of how that corresponds to a band, how a band functions with an SCP band, SCP Parish band. So what I want to do here is, I mean, you can go through, and I made it whole, look, the whole Scrum cycle, the whole Scrum process and everything. I mean, I actually did it all through, and I just went through. We do capture requirements. We ask the people to do what they want to have the songs, and then you go through, and then you have you start making your playlist. You start deciding what songs you want to sing, and then you got to have the voting on the songs, and all the hot spam members, and you start assigning who's going to do work on what, and you're gonna start doing some testing practices, and you got to do bug fixing, because there's the practices are like you're going to always have bugs, right, in the songs. And then going through that's testing cycle and all that, and then rolling it out, and roll out is basically doing a concert, right? And then getting feedback about the concert, how they want to do better next time. So, but that's not what I want to so much focus on here. But that's an example. I want to focus here on the politics of bands. And I played in I played in a lot of bands. I played in the bands for over 40 years, and a lot of groups that played for a lot of people, and some groups that play for small groups of people. All kinds of different types of songs. I mean, all kinds of. I mean, just a wide variety. I do a wide variety of stuff. It's up on my YouTube, so I'm not going to go through that. But I played in a lot of bands, probably 15 to 20 bands in 40 years. Okay, maybe more. And I play alone too, so I kind of do my own gigs too. So I mean, that kind of changes stuff too, right? Because there's a lot of that. But what I've seen in bands, there are two types of bands. And I think this reflects institutions. And I think this is a really important thing, the politics and institutions. That's why I'm doing this video. The clear thing is that there are two types of bands. And, well, two. I mean, at least two. These are the two kind of main flavors you're going to get, right? There are the bands that were set up because the band members, like Toto, they were all the two brothers and all their friends, right? In high school, they got together because they had the same affinities, right? They had the same liking, the same preferences of songs, right? So they started playing together because they liked each other and because they liked the same things in general, right? It wasn't always perfect, but they all liked the same things. The thing that they struggle with in the end, because they're all friends, right, and family and friends, and this happens, you'll see this in like small companies too, or like family companies, is who's the boss, right? Because in the end, you got to have a boss. I mean, I've been through the new work stuff, right? I've been through it. And in the end, you still need somebody to kind of decide when there's disagreements, and finally you got to just decide. In French, we actually have a word for this. It's a specific verb. It means to cut through, right? And someone's got to decide. And so the bands like Toto, and you probably see it with the Beatles too, the things they struggle with, and sometimes they disbanded at times, and then maybe got together, and Toto got back together again and stuff. But the struggles they ran into is who's the boss, who's going to make decisions on what you're going to do, and where you're going to play, and all that stuff. That's what they struggle with. It's who's the boss. when, or who's got the voting privilege is the higher, who's got the 2 votes instead of 1 vote for everybody and who can veto, right? Um, then you have, and you see a lot of family businesses struggle with this stuff too, or like family quarrels and businesses were in the different countries and stuff. I mean, I've seen this. I've worked for companies like this, so I've seen how this works. And when you got a boss, you're told what you got to do, right? I mean, it's good to have flexibility. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's bad not to have flexibility. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying when you got to make a decision, and somebody's got to take the responsibility for that decision rather than sitting there discussing it for like 15 million hours. See what I mean? And causing personal relationship struggles, because I've seen that and been through that too, right? That's one flavor, right? The other flavor, which I think is really important to consider, is the bands that get together because they're at the same location. So that's the good example of the SCP Parish bands. This is before COVID, right? So, but we all were located in the same building of 2,000 people. We set up a music room. We set up a music studio. I helped fund that thing, and we're all located in the same place. We're co-located, right? So we all got together to play in a band because we created the band because there was a need to do a concert in 5 weeks, and we're all in the same building, co-located, and we all did everything necessary in that 5 weeks to actually pull off a playlist of 17 songs and do it really well with rehearsals. But the things that but then what we saw happen with that, there were actually two bands. There were two bands, but the one band involved in R&D was doing this one concert, and it was that way. But what happened that we saw that is we started doing another concert, and finally about the third concert on, we started finding that some people were doing things they didn't like. They didn't like the songs they were kind of had to do, or they didn't like that style, but they did it because had to do the concert, right? So it was the concert that was the driving force. It was the motivating factor. Now, what happened after that was that this R&D band split up into like 10 or 15 different sub bands that were all very specific to specific musical styles. I remember there was one group just Genesis songs, right? A lot of songs are classic rock, or some want to do soul amazing power. We called it SAP, soul amazing power. We had some that were jazz, some heavy metal rock. Others, like I did a lot of piano bar stuff. We had others that were just kind of students that were the musical people that were just kind of getting into things. They want to kind of do things, and some are taking voice lessons with the pop rock singers, so they wanted to do that kind of stuff. And what happened was we ended up with a lot of different bands that were going towards the affinities thing, right? So they started as co-located. Then they went through the struggle of, we have a voting procedure of the songs. I'm not kidding. We had an Excel sheet. And we had to go through and vote what songs we wanted to do and the highest score with all the voting, right? That gets kind of complex when you're proposing, like you're suggesting 20, 30 songs, right? You got to go through these lists and decide what you're going to do for every concert. And the thing was, it showed me, and this you have a lot, right? I mean, this is probably the example that 99% of all businesses struggle with, because people are co-located because they work in the same place. They don't have the same affinities, but they're local. They got to work on a task, right? So this is like the majority of stuff. And these two flavors, and there might be more, right? But I'm just kind of covering the two main ones I've seen and lived through, is that they will flourish or kind of go bad, go south, or degrade, or have degradation, depending on how people work together, and how much they're willing to be tolerant of each other to be able to work together. It just comes down to that. You can impose all you want and say the organization's got to do this and all the organization do that, but really, it comes down to people. It comes down to people and how much they want to work together and how much they want to make things happen. And we've seen some great things when in 5 weeks you got to do a concert and people pull together because they have a goal, they have a whole thing. So I think it's really important to kind of look at this way and think about it this way think about this whole way right here. So I got people talking right now here. I got people coming up right here. But so I would say that what you want to do is focus on. Sorry, I got the people talking here, so I'm going to be talking a little bit louder on this. And so what you want to do is focus on being able to do this. Is find out. I mean, you got to think of organizations are all this way, and they're going to have and you're not going to have an organization. It's not the company is like has the perfect thing, or we're going to say the company is the one that can do this thing, or the company is the one that can make this happen. It's the people that make it happen. It's always going to be the people, and the people working together, people not working together, and they're going to be pitting against each other or not. They're going to be working together or not, right? And so this is the key thing. The key thing is have people being able to do this and willing to do it. If they're not willing, they're going to fight against other territorial things. And the territorial stuff, I mean, seen it, and even the bands, just because of the affinity or the things that they want to work on. But the thing, what you're going to find through this is that's why they split up and become different bands, because in the end, they have to have one of those things. But in the end, it still can be cyclical and come back to that problem that if you've got the people doing things together like the styles, then it comes down to who's the boss, right? When you have to make decisions. So the completely democratic thing doesn't always work. It just doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm saying it doesn't always work, and this is a real key thing. And we have ideologies of what we want, but in the end, it comes down to people working together and just working it out. Work on it out. That the Beatles song. Work on it out, twist and shout. You got to work on it out, right? And that comes down to that. And so that's my thoughts for today. Sorry if I had the background noise. The restaurant employees are coming to put their stuff in the system here to how many meals they served today. So, but I just there's my thoughts for today on this, because this is a really key thing. Institutional politics is a big thing. I mean, I've been kind of dealing with this my different video books on working the Germans, working the French, working the Americans, and I think this is a key thing where sometimes the values may be different, right? The value systems about expectations, about hierarchy, and all that can be different. See my videos on this and the different cultural videos here, intercultural relations and all that, and these three different working or at least these three different working with the country series, and I discussed this, and so there's just not one universal flavor, and it doesn't always work universally. You got to work it out, and you got to understand each other, and you got to understand your differences and how to begin to work together, despite the differences, despite the lack of affinities, despite the lack of the boss, despite the lack of the person who can make decisions. You got to work it out. So that's thoughts for today. Thanks so much.